welcome to the Cambridge Film Festival, a film I love. My name's Jenny, I'm one of the trustees of the Cambridge Film Festival, and it's my absolute pleasure to welcome Amon Warmann to A Film I Love, contributing editor for Empire magazine, writer of Black in Focus column, and writer for many other publications, including Variety, NME, Composing magazine. Amon, welcome to Cambridge Film Festival.
Thank you for having me.
Now, I'm absolutely delighted that you have chosen to talk about Whiplash, the 2014 film written and directed by Damien Chazelle. For me personally, this is a film I saw about 3 times at the cinema. I absolutely love it. And for that reason, I was hoping we could start off by you telling us about the first time you saw this film. Where were you? What sort of expectations did you have? Tell us about it.
Yeah, so my expectations were pretty high going into this film because the first time I saw it was at the London Film Festival in 2014, October 15th, 2014 to be precise. And it had already sort of had a wave of hype from all the screenings in the US at the festivals. Like, people had been lauding this film. So I was so excited to finally see what the fuss is about. But even so, I was not prepared for watching Whiplash for the first time. Again, not only was this like a London Film Festival screening, this was an 8 a.m. press screening. Typically, 8 a.m. screenings, critics aren't that up for it most of the time because it's so early in the morning, you have to wake up so early to get all the way into London. But there was a buzz about this film. But again, typically in a film screening with press, you don't get a room full of press, a packed full room of press applauding immediately after the film. As soon as the credits hit at the end of Whiplash, everyone started applauding because that ending is exhilarating, undeniably brilliant. Still, probably the best final 15 minutes of film I've seen in the last decade or so. It is that good. So that I will never forget because, again, you know, I've watched the ending so much since then. I know what's going to happen. It still floors me. I rewatched it for this. It still floors me. It's just an incredible piece of filmmaking. But I'll never forget that first time. You watching being part of a room full of press, which just goes bonkers with applause immediately after a film happens. That very rarely happens. And I was very, very happy to be in the audience for that.
Yeah, I think the first time I saw it was actually at the premiere, like the public premiere of it at London Film Festival as well. And it was a very similar, just, you know, it kind of sounds really cliche to talk about energy in a room, but I think because leading up to that ending, and I don't know how much, because I'm aware people watching this might not have seen the film, so I don't know how much we should say about the ending, but let's go back a step, and can you give us a sort of overview in general of what the film is about?
I want to talk about the ending so bad, but it's fine. Yes, so Whiplash is about a student called Andrew Neiman, played by Miles Teller, and he is a very promising student at a prestigious drum school, and he wants to earn the approval of the ensemble instructor, played by J.K. Simmons. His name is Fletcher, and so it's about that. But Neiman wants Fletcher's approval. Fletcher's looking for a drum student to make the next best amazing, you know, drummer in the world. And, you know, it's about those two characters and the battle of wills and how they sort of, you know, pursue their similar goals. In a way, this film is about, you know, what the cost of being great, the cost of being perfect, the cost of being all you can be, and, you know, what goes into that. And me just knowing myself as a perfectionist in my own right and what I do, there's a lot of sort of relatability that comes with that theme, which really sort of, you know, stuck with me as I watched the film.
Yeah, and it's interesting because the film is about, you know, music, jazz drumming, but also it is, as you say, it's the search for greatness, and it's that fascinating relationship, teacher-pupil relationship, or, you know, kind of not master-servant, but it's a power relationship, isn't it, between the two of them?
No, absolutely, it's mentor-student.
Yes, and I mean, J.K. Simmons I think he won 47 awards for his role. I mean, he won, you know, the biggies. And what is it about his performance that is so compelling?
Oh, it's a lot. I mean, I like how precise he is with everything that he does. Not only in his insults, which are very, very precise, and the way he sort of winds up to you know these big scenes where he just dresses down everyone in his orbit is incredible to watch. But precise even in things like how he hangs up his jacket and his hat. Precise even in things where he arrives not at 9:01, not at 8:59, at 9 a.m. on the dot. That is when he walks in. It's little things, little touches like that, which are incredible. And I think this film, not only with the J.K. Simmons character, but also with the Miles Teller character, it's really, really interesting because a lot of the time when you're watching films, the characters that the audience gravitates towards and the audience roots for are characters that are likable. But if you take a step back and look at J.K. Simmons as Fletcher and look at Miles Teller as Neiman, if you take a step back, these characters, both of them, they are not likable, but you understand them. And once you do that, then you can root for them in a way. And I think that is just, it's a testament to really sort of great writing because it's not often that that happens. But it's proof that if you can get into the character's mindset, if you understand what is motivating these people, then in the right set of circumstances, you can still root for them. And I think that's, you know, a testament to great writing, but also to the great performance of J.K. Simmons and Miles Teller.
Yeah, that's true. I think what I loved about J.K. Simmons' performance is because, as you say, there's that precision, but he can be quite funny, and his whole character is he can be quite charming, and he really has a presence, you know, in front of the pupils. But he's absolutely terrifying when he's angry. He's you know, the one scene early on, you see him dress down another musician, you know, another member of the ensemble, and I don't know about you, but just watching it and watching the actor who plays the musician, sort of just his whole body language, like he's crushed, he's, you know, he's publicly humiliated, he's crushed. And so you watch that at the start, and yeah, you kind of think there's no way this teacher, the band leader, has any redeeming features. But J.K. Simmons manages to show that light and shade at times, and he's fascinating. But as you say, Miles Teller also has a kind of focus and almost arrogance, and yet you see him, you feel so sorry for him at times, you want to give him a big hug. Like he's really fragile. And I mean, yeah, it's fascinating. And I mean, another character, and there is sort of a parallel relationship, is the relationship between Andrew and his father. And then obviously that kind of parallels the sort of with that, and him and Fletcher. What do you think the relationship with his father kind of brings to the story?
It's really, really interesting because it's about, again, the perfectionism comes into it. His father can't quite understand what it is that Andrew is striving for. And that relationship is really interesting to view in that regard. And, you know, his father, even with that, his father doesn't technically do anything wrong. He's doing, in many ways, in many scenes, what a father should in terms of looking out for his son, looking out for his well-being. But it's really interesting, and I'm going to try and sort of, you know, skirt around specifics, because I do think that ending, those three characters, the differences between them and how they play off of each other is so beautifully shown in word, without even, you know, without any dialogue whatsoever, just in terms of shots, in terms of what Neiman and Fletcher are doing on the stage and what his father is doing, looking on at what he thinks is sheer horror. Like, what is going on? This is absolutely terrible. But from Fletcher and Neiman's point of view, this is their dreams being realized. This is it. This is what they've been working their whole lives towards. And that difference between all three of them, again, it's just beautifully shown and it hits a spot for me every time. It's amazing.
And so the film is relatively low budget. I think it was only sort of 3 million or something. I think they shot it and edited it in 10 weeks, and it won 3 Oscars. So not just the Oscar for J.K. Simmons, but also for sound and for editing, sound mixing, I think, and editing. Can you talk us a bit about the visual impact of the film, in the sense, well, the editing, why you think it was a winner for those 2 other categories at the Oscars?
The editing in this film is utterly phenomenal. Utterly phenomenal. There's so many little touches that add so much. Like, for instance, the scene you're talking about where J.K. Simmons dresses down I think it's the trombonist who he asked to promptly leave. The camera sort of zooms out once J.K. Simmons sort of exits sort of like eye level, because he goes to eye level to just completely destroy this guy. And as the camera exits out and J.K. Simmons rises, you then see Andrew Neiman looking on. The camera is right there, and it recontextualizes the entire scene. It's stuff like that. The editing in the final sequence, again, is incredible, because not only do you have the quick cuts between the band, Fletcher, and Neiman, which just accentuates everything and builds energy, but it tells a story in terms of the changing character dynamics between Neiman and Fletcher, in terms of where the camera is in relation to them. It's little touches like that which makes the editing incredible. And then obviously the sound editing, there's so much amazing drumming and I'm gonna do that again. The sound editing, the drumming, and how it feeds off the rest of the ensemble, and how they sort of mesh those 2 sounds. In many films I've seen, one would overwhelm the other. That never happens with this. And obviously the drumming is the main part of this film, and in many ways, but the way that they mesh those 2 sounds again is great. So both of those awards, in my opinion, were definitely very well deserved.
And I think it's the physicality of the drumming as well comes across, not just by watching Miles Teller sweat, but the blood and the ice, the close-ups, you see that, the bleeding on the drumsticks. And that leads us on to talk about Miles as a drummer. So he learned to drum. I think he's self-taught from an early age, and the story itself has autobiographical elements, because Damien Chazelle trained himself in music and trained in drumming as well. Do you think having that autobiographical element shining through from the writer and from the director adds something to the impact of the film, to the sort of rawness of it?
Absolutely. There are things that you're able to bring to a project like this if you have lived it, if you do actually know what you're doing around the drum set. Like little touches, like before Fletcher's about to come into the studio, what all the band members are doing in terms of getting ready, in terms of the milk, the cut with the with the tuning of the instruments, all that sort of stuff. It's little things like that that I'm sure were added in because Damien Chazelle lived through them, that help add and help put you in the world of this film. And it's not to say that certain audience members, won't be able to, if it's actually you are a drummer or an instrumentalist, maybe you all know if this person is just faking it or whatever. But having that be an actual real thing, it adds so much, because then the actors can focus on other elements of the actual performance, as opposed to just trying to make everything look convincing. They already know what they're doing in that regard, so they can focus on other stuff, and it's led to the result, which is an incredible movie.
Yeah. And for Damien Chazelle, this was his breakout film, and obviously then went on to La La Land and then to First Man. Where do you think this sits? Because earlier it was Guy and Madeline on a Park Bench, is that right? Which I've not actually seen, but do you think this stands out?
This is still my favorite Damien Chazelle film, and I say that as someone who really, really liked La La Land. I was keen on First Man, but not as keen as others. But Whiplash, for me, is still his best film by quite some distance, and it's largely because, and I know I've said it many times, but that ending is just a phenomenal piece of filmmaking. And how, you know, the film builds up to that point is sensational. So for me, there's no, it's a very, very easy choice for me. Whiplash is still my favorite Damien Chazelle film. And it's the film, you know, which put him on the map, as you say, that had me like, you know, lifetime pass, anything Damien Chazelle, because it's one of those films where you know that from the director of Whiplash is going to be on every poster, on every trailer going forward, because this film is that monumental. And because I love this film so much, it was like, okay, Damien Chazelle, anything you're doing, I want to watch immediately because this film is so great. So yeah, Whiplash for me.
And when it comes to other films about music or about kind of artists striving for perfection, where do you think, I mean, how would you, you know, how would you kind of compare it? Like, you know, some critics might do it's this meets this. What are the other sort of benchmarks that you think this film has similarities to?
I say this only because I've been thinking about it recently, but there's a film called Rush. So Formula One film about racing, starring Daniel Bruhl and Chris Hemsworth. There's these two rival race drivers. That's a film about perfection in many ways, which I really, really love, which mirrors Whiplash in a lot of ways. Also recently, another sort of project really about perfection to win and what all of that cost and what it takes. There's been this amazing documentary called The Last Dance about Michael Jordan and the Chicago Bulls. And, you know, that I think it's an 8-part series. And, you know, that has a bit of a sort of a personal touch with me because I have 3 older brothers, and we, you know, played basketball a lot growing up, and we sort of semi-worshipped Michael Jordan growing up. So I was really looking forward to that, but in news, a few of the stories, but that documentary really put it in some amazing context in terms of the cost of winning, and what that takes. And, you know, there's not many people who would want to sort of go to those lengths to do that, to achieve that level of greatness. But Michael Jordan was one of those people, and, you know, as a result, he's one of the greatest athletes this world has ever seen. So yeah, those two for sure are the one mentioned, sort of perfectionism and the drive to win and drive to be the best that you can be. I'm sure that there are many more, but those are the two that came to mind.
That's brilliant. Thank you. Yeah, because I was thinking of sort of Black Swan was one that I thought.
That's another one for sure.
But no, they're both great choices. Thank you. Well, one last question, Amon, and this is for people who are now about to watch Whiplash for the first time.
Where have you been? No.
But what, you know, is there anything in particular they should be looking out for? Is there a particular scene? I know we've talked about the ending a bit, but
have we though? No. Is there a particular scene that people should be looking out for? I really like the first scene, honestly. Just how Fletcher immediately has Neiman under his heel. Just the psychological warfare from the beginning is really, really interesting to watch. I love the scene in the bar where Fletcher sort of outlines his worldview about why he's doing what he's doing. And you know, that really, it's really, really interesting to watch, because even after all Neiman has suffered, even after everything that's happened, you sense that he's still after the approval of this man, that he still wants you know, appreciation from this man who has, you know, abused him to the point where he has, you know, I'm not going to say what he's done because I don't want to spoil it, but yeah, that scene. So I said the first scene, the scene in the bar, and the final scene. And then when you watch the final scene, what you want to do is press the rewind button and watch it again. And then once you've done that, what you want to do is press the rewind button and then watch it again, because yes, it is that good.
Amazing. Amon Warmann, thank you so much for joining us for Cambridge Film Festival and sharing a film you love. Thank you.
Thank you.